I recreated the Jin-Woo physique in just 7 months of training, right? So I set out on a transformation of 7 months, right? And I was trying to recreate the Jin-Woo physique from solo leveling, right? And I tried to get the specifics as accurate as possible, right? So if you Google Jin-Woo, his weight is estimated to be around 170 pounds. In this picture to your right here, I was 171 pounds. And even this picture to the left here, I was 154 pounds when I actually started, right? So I started at 154 pounds. I went up to 100 and 71 pounds in just 7 months of training. And also, to be more precise and to be more accurate on the physique, right? Jin-Woo is estimated to be around 8 to 10% body fat. I was 9.1% body fat, and I even went and got this checked and tested, right? So you see later in the video, I'll show you the test results where I was 9.1% body fat, and I closely and like 99% replicated the physique, the Jin-Woo physique from solo leveling, right? And at the pinnacle of all of this, right, was the training that I did, right? I prioritized the 7 aesthetic muscles, right, which would build me this like aesthetic physique, this Jin-Woo physique, right? So the 7 aesthetic muscles are neck, traps, delts, upper chest, biceps, abs, obliques, and also I also included delts, right? Not delts, what are these called? The back, lats. They're called lats, and I also included lats, right? Those are the 7 aesthetic muscles. I just grouped neck and traps to be one thing, but they're basically like 2 separate muscles, right? So let's go over all of them, starting off with neck and traps, right? I've always had a super skinny neck, right? Just growing up, I've had a skinny neck. I've had like basically no traps at all. So growing my neck and traps was a bit of a difficult one. As you can see in this picture to the right here, I've got a much larger neck here, and I've got like my traps are prominent, and you can clearly see that like I've been training traps, right? It's not one of those traps that you get from like secondary training where if you're training back or you're training like other muscles, you end up just somehow getting like a little bit of traps going. You can clearly see in this picture over here that I intentionally trained my traps because of just how much mass you can see that I've put on the traps here alone, right? So neck and traps is a bit of like a tricky one for me since I just started off with like a super skinny neck, and I also started off with basically no traps at all. Neck and traps is a bit of a tricky one to me, but I locked in. I was training traps twice per week on my back days, and I ended up getting the traps and the neck that I needed to recreate the Jin-Woo physique, right? So that was the first aspect of it. Then we went on to lateral delts, right? Lateral delts are basically your shoulders, right? And these are quite important, right? You can see even on the picture here to your left, my starting physique, I basically had like a flat line between like my bicep, triceps, and my shoulders. It was almost a flat line, which basically shows you that there was like no lateral delts at all. There was no shoulders at all. It was just flat all the way here. And even in this picture, so you can clearly see I had no traps here. Like I literally started off with 0 traps. It was a flat line from here all the way to my neck. It was just like flat over here, but then as you can see here, I ended up putting like so much mass on the traps, so, which is super important for that physique, Jin-Woo physique, right? But back to lateral delts. Lateral delts are one of the things that I trained pretty hard. You can see there's like fucking shadows on my lateral delts between my biceps and my like shoulders. There's like an entire massive shadow right there, right? Like the shadows that Jin-Woo uses. Anyways, there's like a shadow right there, right? And this was because I trained my lateral delts, which is like my side delt. I trained that so much, right? I did lateral raises and I also did shoulder press, but mostly lateral raises, right? They just trained my shoulder and just grew my entire shoulder, right? To just like enhance my physique and also give me like the V taper, which Jin-Woo has, right? So as you can see from like these like crazy shadows, my lateral delt was like it grew so much from this point to this point. It grew so much, and also of course my bicep and my arm also grew, which contributes to like the definition in the arm and the shoulders. But it was just mostly to the lateral delts training, right? that grew my shoulders. So as I said already, I did just mostly lateral raises. That's what I did for the first like 5 months, and then in the last like 2 months I ended up adding a little bit of overhead press. But overhead press isn't really important for the like width going sideways. It's just the lateral raises that will get you that side width that you want for that Jin-Woo physique. And if I just go back a few slides ago, you can see he's got like shadows on his delts as well, which are like super important for like the physique that we're trying to recreate, right? So the next thing was upper chest, and this was like the biggest one for me, right? Upper chest was the biggest one for me because, as you can see in the picture to the left here, I started off with no chest, zero chest, negative chest, one could say. I started off with negative chest, right? I started off with nothing. You know, 22-pound dumbbells, 22-pound dumbbells, like 10 kg dumbbells, right? Those used to be the most I could press on an incline bench. And if anyone goes to the gym, you know how light that is. You can basically like lateral raise that, and you actually need more weight to lateral raise instead of 22 pounds, right? So I basically started off with no chest at all. So it was very difficult for me to actually build some mass in my chest, because when I started off, I could barely lift any weight. I started off like 17 pounds. I would lift that for like 12 reps, and then on a day when I'm feeling confident, on a day when I've got like strength and I'm feeling good, I would lift up to 22 pounds. I would do it for like 8 reps, and it was super annoying because for the first like 3-4 months of training, right, I didn't have the strength or the mass in my chest to be able to actually start loading on weights, and be able to actually really hit my chest with like everything that I had, right? So it was super annoying, but I ended up getting through it. After like 4 months of training, my chest was at a point where I could actually do 3 exercises, 3 sets, and I could do 12 reps on every single set. And besides doing 12 reps on every single set, I could really progressively overload and actually push like heavy weights to actually get that like mass in the chest, right? Which was something that was super important for the physique, because as you can see in the Jin-Woo physique, he's got a pretty good chest on him. His most prominent feature is his abs, right, which we're going to get to in the next slide. But the chest was like the biggest obstacle that I faced, right? The biggest obstacle by far, because I just started off with absolutely no chest as well. You can see in the picture to the left, everyone watching this video is probably starting off at a better point than I started off. You're probably starting off with a better chest than I started off. My chest was non-existent, right? So starting off at this point was super difficult, but we got it done anyways. We ended up building up the mass in the chest, and once I had like the mass like 5 months in, I could literally start like pushing more weights. I could really start progressing on the exercises, and I was able to really start putting on mass in the chest, right? So this was like super important for me to actually build that upper chest, which is like the more important part. Not just the overall chest, but the upper chest is the most important one, because that's going to give you the definition and round look that Jin-Woo has, right? So that's the one that I really had to lock in on. The next one is the obvious one, which is abs and obliques, right? Jin-Woo's got like super prominent abs and obliques. I'll just show you one more time. Like this is like his most prominent feature. It's his abs and then his obliques, right? And obliques was one of the things that I actually had to lock in, and I see like no one trains obliques besides like me, of course, and a few other people, but basically no one trains obliques. And as you can see here, his obliques are also a prominent feature, right? He's got like crazy obliques stretching out on his sides here. Not only his abs, but his obliques are also very visible, right? So I had to lock in obviously on the abs, trained my abs till they were like fucking ridges, as you can see here. But not even that, the obliques as well, you can see my obliques going to the sides. I had to lock in, like this is the part where I think I replicated it so well. It's the obliques that I replicated, right? I really trained the obliques until they were like fucking like stretching on my sides and everything. Like I could see the obliques right there. If I actually flexed my obliques, I could really see like the definition that I had built in the obliques, right? Of course, I can't change the ab insertions that I was given, right? And so like I could just suddenly choose to have 6 ab insertions, right? He's got like more ab insertions than me, so I've got like 1, 2, 3. He's got like 3 on top here. I think he's got like 4 or something. So I can't change my insertions, right? So that's like why it's like 99% accurate. Otherwise it would have been 100%. Otherwise it would have been 100. I can't change my insertions, right? So the insertions I can't change, but I replicated the abs and the obliques really well. I trained abs like so much. I don't even know how much I trained abs, but I trained abs so much just so I could replicate that physique, right? So I trained abs, I got the abs locked in, I got the obliques locked in, I had everything tapped in at this point, so it was just like free flowing, right? So abs and obliques was a pretty easy one for me to train. And as you can see, I did start off with no abs, I did start off with no obliques. I just started off as a human being, right? Just like Jin-Woo started off, like he just started off as a normal person, right? So it was kind of like nice for me to get this transformation from like this no abs or anything to this, to just having like abs and obliques in just 7 months of training, by the way, which is really good. Biceps was another big one for me. As you can see, my arms are basically non-existent. I showed this picture to the left here to like one of my friends, and they were looking and they were like, "Hey, why does it look like you have one arm in this picture?" Right? Because basically what they thought was like my arm, this second arm was like one of these twigs, then these like trees that you can see in the background. Yeah, he thought like one of my arms was like a tree or something. So it's like, why do you have one arm in this picture? Right? Just like how, just because of how skinny my arms were growing up, right? You can clearly see like my arms were so skinny. So again, biceps and just growing like the width of my arm overall, growing my arms was a pretty like difficult challenge, right? I think it was like the second hardest after my upper chest, right? It was just like it was pretty difficult growing my arms, but I did lock in on it. I trained them every single week, twice a week. I trained my biceps every single week. Twice a week I trained my triceps. So the arm workout was pretty good. I did end up progressing pretty quickly on the arm workout. I mean, I wish I could show you now, but like my arms are like filled with stretch marks. I don't know how good you can see from. Wait, am I getting that right? I don't know how good you can see from the camera angle right there, but my arms are just like filled with stretch marks up to now, right? So it's like my arms were definitely suffering from success, right? But are suffering from success now. But yeah, my arms were like super skinny. I had to just really lock in on the training and get the biceps and triceps going, right? But I did get it done. I did get the biceps and triceps going, and that was like the whole training phase of getting the physique locked in. And then we did have to also like get really lean. Jin-Woo is 8 to 10% body fat. I went down to like 9.1% body fat, which is basically exactly what he was in the picture here. So exactly the leanness he is in this picture is exactly the leanness I was in this previous picture right here. It's like we're exactly the same amount of leanness, right? So I tried to replicate this as perfectly as I could, right? So I got my body fat tested. As you can see, the body fat percentage is 9.1%. His was like between 8 to 10. So we're going to break even and say he was 9%, I'm 9.1%, which is basically the same thing, right? So the other thing was my dieting. My dieting was pretty simple. I just ate high protein meals, and that was basically it. I basically just ate high protein meals, eggs, steak, more eggs, a little bit of carbs here and there, and sometimes I would have like all these things which you can see like waffles, whatever. It's because I couldn't just eat like protein every single day of my life for 7 months. So I did like lock in on my diet. I ate as consistently as possible. I ate protein as consistently as possible, which was very like crucial to building up the muscle and also staying lean, because I was trying to be 9% body fat, right? So that was it about staying lean and the dieting phase as well. And the supplements I used were just the following: protein powder, creatine, and pre-workout. Pre-workout before all my workouts, obviously to give me strength, and also for the beta-alanine, which is like a chemical that's in the pre-workout that shaves off lactic acid to enable you to lift more and to lift longer, right? So pre-workout was there. Creatine is just something that you take every single day. It's good for water retention and gives you strength and recovery, whatever, everything that you need. Protein powder is an obvious one. I was 150 pounds. I needed to get to 170 pounds. Protein powder, especially whey protein in specific, will get you the lean muscle that you want. It's really good for building lean muscle. So I did take the protein powder, I did take the creatine and pre-workout. Those are the 3 supplements that I took. And then an extra last tip was sauna. I used the sauna because the sauna boosts the hormone that's responsible for muscle growth by like 17%. And also, it's good for when you're trying to stay lean as well. And it's good for recovery. It's good for like a few other things. So the sauna was like another thing that I took. I utilized to be able to build the physique. And with all these factors combined and put together with all these things that I did, I was able to replicate the Jin-Woo physique from solo leveling with an accuracy of like 99.99999% down to the exact weight, down to the exact body fat percentage. Everything was basically identical. Thank you for watching this video. Like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel.